Hi guys, today we are going to learn more about time in Lesson 2. Lesson 2 is about reading and writing time. You will be able to show and tell time using hours and minutes. Now here they have an example of how you can use a clock to tell time in hours and minutes. Here is the clock. You can see that the blue hand that is longer is pointing to the 7. And the red hand, which is shorter, is in between the 6 and the 7. We're going to talk about what that means, and you have a new clock that you can use to practice with as well. So when this minute hand is pointing to the 7, I know that I need to skip count by 5 to figure out what that is, but of course it tells me right here, I'm still going to skip count. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35. So 35 minutes. Now, the hour hand is in between the 6 and the 7 because the hour hand also has to move the closer it gets to the next hour. And we are going to have some practice with that. But you can write this in two different ways. You can write it as 6 hours and 35 minutes or 6:35. I wrote it in words and numbers. Now here I have a clock that I can use to show you how that works. This clock right now shows me that it is 6 o'clock. The hour hand is pointing to the 6, and the minute hand is pointing to the 12, which symbolizes the two zeros starting of a new hour. I'm going to take my minute hand here, and I'm going to, no, that's the hour hand. I'm going to take my minute hand up here and slowly move it to each minute. And as you can see, as I'm doing that, the hour hand is slowly moving past the 6. If I'm at 6:15, you can see now that my hour hand is not on the 6 anymore, but it's slowly getting closer to the 7. If I'm at 6:30, my hour hand is now halfway through the 6 and the 7 because it is halfway done with the hour. If I move my minute hand to 6:45, it still continues to get closer to the 7. And you'll notice even at 6:55, it's not quite on the 7 yet, but it's getting very close. As soon as I bring it to the 12, that's the symbol of a new hour, and we have officially made it to 7 o'clock. Now, before we have more fun with our clocks, I want us to take a look at how we can write time in words. We have down here in guided practice 4 examples of what we can do, starting with number 1. Number 1 reads 10:40. So that's 10 hours and 40 minutes. I'm going to write 10:40, and that's how you answer that one in words. Number 2 says it's 4 hours and 5 minutes, which makes it 4:05. You can write that by saying that it is 5 minutes after 4. Number 3 shows you 2:15. So here I'm going to write 2:15. But I could also say that it is 15 minutes past 2, or I could even say that it is quarter after 2. And now we can do number 4. Number 4 here says 5 hours and 4 minutes. That can be read as 5:04 or 4 minutes after 5. So I'm going to write it as 4 minutes after 5. Now there are a lot of different ways that you can say or write time, so we're going to continue working with those. On the next side here, we also need to be able to read the clocks. So I'm going to erase this. And we are going to take a look down here. It says tell time. Now here I can see that my hour hand is red and my minute hand is blue. My hour hand is in between the 3 and the 4, and my minute hand is pointing to the 5. If I skip count for my minute hand first, which is 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, I know there are 25 minutes. And if my hour hand is between the 3 and the 4, it means it started at the 3 and it's moving towards the 4, which means it is still in the hour 3. So at this time is 3 hours and 25 minutes, or 3:25. Next one, I can see my red hour hand and my blue minute hand. And I can skip count for my blue minute hand to find out the time. Right now it's on the 6. So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. So that's been 30 minutes, or half past the hour. My hour hand is really close to the 4, but it looks like it's halfway in between. Since it's still between the 3 and the 4, that means that the time is still on the 3rd hour. So it is 3:30, or 3 hours and 30 minutes. Down here, we are still moving. My minute hand, the blue one, is now facing the 9, and my red hour hand is getting closer to the 4. I'm going to start by skip counting for my minute hand. We have 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45. So it's 45 minutes, or a quarter to the next hour. My hour hand is getting very close to the 4, but it is still not quite there yet, which means I'm still in the 3rd hour. So right now it is 3 hours and 45 minutes, or 3:45. And the last clock, I can see that my minute hand, the blue one, is pointing to the 11, and my hour hand, the red one, is getting really close to the 4. I'm going to start by skip counting for my minute hand. I start at the 12, always starting at the 12, and I go 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55. So I'm at 55 minutes. And my hour hand is almost on the 4, but not quite there yet. So I'm still in the 3rd hour. So it is 3 hours and 55 minutes, or 5 minutes to 4. Now there are a lot of different ways to read time, and we are going to continue practicing with that. So we are going to continue on with our practice by looking for where the missing hands should be. Now looking at number 9, I can see that we are looking for the time 12:10. Now in each of these problems, you are either going to be filling in the minute hand, the hour hand, or both. On this one, it already gives me the hour hand. It shows me the 12 is being pointed to by that small red hand. I need to fill in the minute hand. I need to fill it in so it shows where 10 is. Now 10 would be pointing to the 2. Now on problem number 10, I am looking to find the time for 45. Now, this time I can see that it gives me the blue minute hand and it's pointing to the 9, signifying 45 minutes. I need to put the hour hand in for 4 hours. I cannot just point it right at the 4 though. Since it has already been 45 minutes into the hour 4, it needs to be closer to the 5. So when I do this, I need to be aware that it can't just point right to the 4. And it might not always be right where you want it, but it cannot point right to the 4 unless it's exactly 4 o'clock. Now on this next one, we are looking for 3:30. Once again, it gives me the minute hand. The minute hand is pointing to the 6, signifying 30 minutes. I need to find the hour for 3:30. Now, since 30 is halfway through an hour, I can put my hour hand halfway between 3 and 4. But I need to remember that that hand needs to be smaller than the blue hand. Now, telling time will only get easier with practice. Unfortunately, we do not have time to go through all of these, so we are going to skip a few. We are moving down to number 2 here, and let's tell time. We are going to find the time for this. Now, I can see that my minute hand is pointing to the 10, and my hour hand almost looks like it's on the 6, but not quite. So that tells me that first I need to figure out how many minutes there are. If the minute hand is on the 10, I can skip count or multiply 5 times 10, which is 50. So there are 50 minutes. Now, since it's already been 50 minutes into an hour, and it's that close to the 6, I need to remember that it's not 6:50, it is 5:50. It is getting very close to being 6 o'clock, but not quite there yet. Now let's do some practice with writing time in words. How about number 5? Number 5 says there's been 12 hours and 5 minutes. It can be read as 12:05, but written down, it's easier to say it's been 5 minutes after 12. And number 6 here says 3 o'clock. Writing 3 o'clock is fairly easy. I can write the number 3. I'm going to put an O with the apostrophe and then write the word clock. 3 o'clock, easy as that. Now that we've gone through a few of these things, it would be time to go to your workbook pages 101 to 106. I also will have another video showing that interactive clock, finding more times to show you a different way to look at it. And remember, your clock can also help you figure out how to figure the time on your workbook pages or homework. Let me know if you have any questions.